in certain cases, hear colors, see sounds, and so on. It all seems to go together. Well, of course, it would, because they're all specializations of our basic sensitivity. All senses are fundamentally a sort of touch. So one of the first inquiries that is always interesting in the psychedelic state is to discuss with yourself, what is the difference between this way of seeing things and the normal way? Everything's a little bit off, and yet it looks the same as it should look, but it's off. And what do we mean by that? We really don't know. But you see, it's like, as in the same way as when you put on colored glasses, everything becomes colored with the color of the glass. And soon your consciousness will start to eliminate that effect. And it will begin after a while to look normal, as it does when you wear sunglasses. So in the same way, if you put on a glass for every sense that you have, and the name of that glass is funny, everything will look funny. What is the difference between normal awareness and funny awareness? Focuses you on the whole thing of awareness, on the whole process, which does not ordinarily happen. So your eyes can organize what they see into patterns which we would say in the ordinary way aren't there. And so you start, when you see that, asking questions. What is the right way to organize the way you see the world? The whole universe is a colossal energy play, going this way and that way, totally indestructible. And it's all you, and you didn't know it. But doesn't mean you're the only one. This thing proliferates in millions and millions of centers, but it's all one center. And it is, you can get the physical sensation of the thing being an enormous, as it were, sort of center of light, of joyous, whooping, glorious, loving, boom, like that. And this will only usually last for a few moments, where you feel you've actually put your finger on the center of reality. And it's this tremendous luminous energy. Just beautiful. And then as this passes off, you see, as it were, the reflected glory of this in everything you look at. And at that moment, you see, in the experience, you begin to come down. And as you look more and more, you see, of course, I don't object to being in a different state of consciousness than what I've just been in. Go back to being ordinary, because now I've seen what ordinary consciousness is underneath. It's this fantastic game of hide and seek. And it's perfectly all right to come back, because actually, since all is one, there is no difference between my perfectly everyday existence and this stupendous vision of glory that I've just seen, because the one implies the other. They go together. This is the game. This is the hide and seek. And so you can come back into an extremely integrated, restful, quiet sense of peace, never forgetting that you have seen relativity, and that relativity is the key to the fundamental unity, because that which is related, all extremes are related to each other in a polar way. They are not things that are separate from each other, as if they oppose.
I leave the church and find myself at a corner gas station on a hot afternoon.
As long as they don't pretend they're taking a scientific harm reduction stance. By all means, have a moral stance. In a sense, they've taken that by keeping alcohol and tobacco out of the act. They've said they don't care. So that's, but just do not ask scientists to produce evidence to justify a moral stance so they can then say, this is science. It must be class B because it's lethal, when it isn't.
The difficulty there is, of course, that you've compared the dangers of ecstasy to horse riding. Yeah. So you see, what you say falls down a little when you talk about hard scientific evidence with a, if I may say so, crass comment like that.
Well, obviously you haven't read the paper, have you? But it's not a crass comment. That was a carefully considered analysis. Do you know how many people die every year from horse riding accidents in this country? Well, it's over 30.
So
how many people die of ecstasy? It's about 10.
You're talking about proportions now, aren't you?
Proportions of users? Oh, yes. If you read my paper, you'll see, particularly in eventing, so hard-end horse riding, there's a serious accident every 35 hours. And ecstasy, it's about a serious event every 350,000 hours. So, look, you know, this is the part of the issue. Here you are trying to argue the science. You're not a scientist. We've done the analysis. We've looked at it. If you don't like what we say about the science, well, say, okay, we'll take a moral position, but don't try to tell me that the science we've done is wrong. My committee had 28 people. We did the most detailed analysis of ecstasy, the most detailed analysis of cannabis ever done. We know what the harms are.
But do you not see that the headlines that come out of the science that you describe, you're quite right, I haven't read your paper, but when you see a headline like that horse riding is more dangerous than ecstasy, that it does make people think you're being glib about this?
Well, all I can say is it's good to have the opportunity to explain to people who might think that through your medium, that we're not being glib. We are saying that if you want to reduce harms and death, you should tell the truth about drugs and the harms of drugs, but also make reasonable comparisons. Frankly, you know, having done that research on horse riding, I'd be extremely concerned about my children riding horses, particularly eventing, because I know their likelihood of being seriously injured is very high. And in fact, since I published that article, I have had countless numbers of horse riders say, you're dead right, I've got a broken pelvis. In fact, one of my council members broke a pelvis during the review of ecstasy riding a horse. Horse riding is a very dangerous activity, like climbing mountains or bungee jumping. They're not trivial. You know, just because they're legal doesn't mean they're safe.
Has the Home Secretary scored an own goal, do you think, tonight, Professor
Absolutely.
Nutt, by sacking you in this way and giving you the oxygen of the publicity that we're now giving you?
I don't want publicity for me. I want publicity for science, for truth. I think it's a bad day for science